everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Nicole and this is Dusty Book Sniffers, and it's Tuesday, so that means it's Tag You're It Tuesday. So let's get started. Well, good morning or good evening everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Yes, I'm back again for another tag because it's Tag Tuesday, and today I am doing the Deja Vu tag. Now, I was tagged months ago by Romeo Talks Books, and I will leave his channel up down below, and the original tag was by Walker Writes 7. So, as I said, this is the Deja Vu tag, and I've got them all written down here, there are 12 prompts. Alright, so let's get stuck into it, shall we? All right, so question 1 is, do you reread and how often? Yes, I do reread. Not very often, but I do have one book that I do like to reread as much as I can, or at least once a year, if not every other year, and that is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And I've done that for a while, and I've reread Anne of Green Gables a couple of times as well, and I'm still in the midst of reading the Chronicles of Narnia again as well. So I don't do it super often, but I do like to every now and again. Number 2, why do you or don't you reread? I reread because I feel, especially with the classics, I am going to be rereading more of those because I feel like you get more, the more you read them, the more you get out of it. So Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, I've pretty much got everything I can get out of it now after reading it so often, but I reread that because I wanted to share that with my children, and now I'm rereading it because I'm sharing it with my granddaughter. We started reading it together in 2022, and for the first time, because prior to that she was just a little bit little, she wouldn't sit still long enough to listen to a novel, but she really got excited about it when we went and watched a couple of about an hour of the Disney's adaptation of it, and she started to put the connections together of, oh, that's from the book. So now I'm hoping that it will give her an appreciation for the classics and not miss out on reading like I did, because I decided I didn't want to read the classics. However, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol was read to me as a child, and so that's why I like to reread it, and I've read it to all my kids, and when they were too old to listen to me or didn't want to do it anymore, I just read it for myself because it's a nice Christmassy book. And so I'm hoping to continue that tradition, and I'm hoping my children will continue that tradition as well. Yeah, but that's mainly the reason that I like to reread, is because I get more out of the story again. Like Anne of Green Gables, there's so much happening in that there's little things that you forget and stuff like that, and some of them you don't go back to for a long time. Like, for instance, Gone with the Wind, I read just recently. I read that back in it's either early 1990s or the late 80s that I read that, and I just reread it last year in 2022, and there was so much of the story that I had completely forgotten about. So that is if nothing else, that's another reason to reread books that you read years and years and years ago. All right, what has been your favourite book to reread? Well, again, Charles Dickens' Anne of Green Gables, Chronicles of Narnia. I think I actually reread the Chronicles of Narnia in my 20s, but I think I only read the first 2 books. Maybe only the first one. It's a long time ago. So I know that I've read it a couple of times. At least the first 2 a couple of times. I'm not too sure about the other books. But I just recently got the 50-year anniversary edition where they're all in one book, and it's illustrated as well. So yeah, I was pretty happy about that, and that's why I've started rereading it again. So yeah, it's exciting stuff. But I would have to say Anne of Green Gables and Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol have been my all-time favourites because I've gone back to them a couple of times. All right, number 4. What would you like to reread? Well, I would actually like to reread Jane Eyre, and also I would like to reread the Pickwick Papers, which I'm actually doing come this March. I'm actually starting the Pickwick Papers again from Charles Dickens, and I only just recently read Jane Eyre, so I'm going to leave that for a couple of months and see how I travel at the end of the year, because I back off my reading at the end of the year because I'm so busy. I might squeeze it in then for another reread. And maybe for Victober this year I might read that. That sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? What book do you predict that you will reread and want to reread it? Okay, so I am going to go with the classics here, because I think they as I said, they really lend themselves to being reread. And as I said, I'm going to reread Jane Eyre, but I also predict that I'm probably going to reread the Count of Monte Cristo, and I've only just started reading that. I'm already on my second read of Middlemarch as well, so I don't know whether I'll read that a third time, but definitely the Count of Monte Cristo. I think I may listen to it just with the audio, not read along the second time. But yeah, I think I will like to reread that one, because there is a lot happening in that already, and we're in the first 10 chapters in, so yeah. Okay. Pick a book from when you were younger that you would think would be an interesting reread. Well, I've read most of the books. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I would like to reread Black Beauty. Yeah, I think I would like to reread Black Beauty, because I read that when I was a kid and I've never reread that as an adult. I think I would like to. I started reading it to my kids, but they weren't interested in that. They wanted different books to be read to them at the time, and we just never got back to it. So I think I'd like to read Black Beauty, and I've got it in a cloth bound up there. So yeah, maybe even reread The Wizard of Oz as well. I think I'd like to read that as well. Okay. All right. Now, number 7. Tell us a series of books that is so big and complex you need to reread it to get a better understanding. Okay. I can honestly say that is The Wheel of Time. Okay. I'm only book 3 into book 3. I've read the first 2 and I'm about to start book 3. I already know that I will need to reread that, because there's a lot going on in that series, and there's 14 books in the series. So I'm guessing by the time I get to 14, I would have forgotten what's happened in book 1, so I'll be able to go back and it will just become a vicious circle. But yeah, I predict that one. And possibly, I haven't read Game of Thrones yet, but I'm guessing, and I want to start that this year, I'm guessing that will also be another mammoth series that I will want to start. And also Robin Hobb, I think that will be another one that I will reread in the future as well. I'm just progressively going through her books at the moment. But yeah, there's Game of Thrones, definitely and Game of Thrones. Definitely, which I haven't even read yet. So I already know just from the synopsis and everything like that, it is a pretty complex story, and I'll probably want to reread that again to get more out of it. Is there a specific genre you think is best or worse for rereads? Okay, so thrillers would be the worst for rereads, because I don't think I would ever reread a thriller unless it's something that I read many, many years ago and really have no idea of what it's about. For me, for thrillers, I can look at a cover and go, oh yeah, that's what that was about, that's what the plot twist was, and remember the story, and not necessarily have total recall, but the major plot points, which is what a thriller is, the major plot points make the book. So yeah, I probably wouldn't bother rereading those. I think they would be the worst. I've never reread a thriller, so I can't say one way or another. And then also adventure books where there's have a bit of a mystery to them. I think once the mystery's let out, like the cat's out of the bag, there's no point in going and rereading. The best books to reread, and I've only just, as I said, started doing this with the classics, is the classics. So and fantasy is the other top one. I would say classics and fantasy are the best for rereading, because they're, especially in really complex fantasy books, there's so much going on and so much world building and so much to learn about the magic system and all the rest of it. It really does lend itself to rereading. And because you can use those books as escapism and just fall into them, headlong into them, and just lose yourself in that fantasy world, I really do believe that they are the top one. Next is classic. The worst is thrillers, and just above thrillers would be adventure mysteries. All right. Is there a book liked more on reread? Is there a book I like more on reread? Well, Anne of Green Gables was one, and Chronicles of Narnia. Actually, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is the second book to the Chronicles of Narnia. That one, when I reread that, and I reread that to one of my girls, I actually liked it more. Now, I don't know whether it was because I got more out of the story and it had been a long time since I read it, or the fact that I was reading out aloud to my daughter, if that's what made it more enjoyable. But yeah, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was definitely one that I liked better. And Anne of Green Gables, most definitely, because there's so many beautiful words written into that, and her imagination and all the rest of it in that book, like that she talks about in that book. I just loved it so much more the second time around, and the third time around, and the fourth time around. I just loved it so much, and I still love it today. And I reread it just last year, and at the end of the year I read the second book, and I'm hoping to read the third book very soon on that. If you reread, tell us a book you would like to reread before the end is out. Well, I just entered that. Anne of Green Gables, book 3. I would like to reread that. And also Jane Eyre. I would like to read that before the end of the year. I will have finished Middlemarch, which was another one. Middlemarch, I only finished in September, and I picked it up again in December to reread. And I did that because I felt like I missed a lot of stuff in... Not so much a lot, but I felt like I was missing something. I was quite busy at the time of reading that, and I thought, I need to reread this. And so that's why I'm doing a deep dive, and I do the deep dive in the Serialized Book Club. So we're just reading it as it was originally published, and just small chunks at a time, and it's making it so much more enjoyable because there's not that urge to get the book finished because you've got this big chunkster and you just want to plow through it. We're just reading volume 1 right now, and we're reading that over a 2-month period because Middlemarch was published bi-monthly, so it's been really good. I just read the first because I think there's 100 pages in the first volume, 120 pages, so I think I've read about 60 pages of that so far, and I'm just slowly reading it and thoroughly enjoying it. And Maria and I are doing a live stream for that, and doing a deep dive and talking about the characters and all the rest of it a little bit more. So yeah, so Middlemarch will be, I will have at the end of the year. I definitely want to reread Jane Eyre, and I definitely want to reread the third book in the Anne of Green Gables, which will be my third time reading that. The last few books I have only read once, so this will be my third time reading that. And the other one that I want to reread is Frankenstein and Dracula as well. So there's more than just one. Again, they're all classics, and I just think the classics really lend themselves to rereading. All right, so I have no idea who has done this and who has done it and who hasn't. So I am just going to tag a few people. I'm going to tag Maria from Read Fine Books. I'm going to tag I'm going to tag Flossie from a Grape Jelly Library. I'm going to tag Heather from Heather Heroes and Heroines. I'm going to also tag Reading with Merb, Meredith from Reading with Merb. And so that's 4. And I'm going to tag... Who am I going to tag next? Stormy. From Reading with Storm, I think it is. That I'm not so sure about that, and I'm sorry, Stormy, if I've buggered your channel name up, but I'll leave the links down below for everybody to go and suss them out. Go and suss out the original creator. Also go and suss out Michael Romeo Reads Books, and yeah, and I Talks Books, and I will see you all in the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below, and tell me, do you reread your books? And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.